So this is going to be a fully uncut run of my Dark Ride from, I think, week 2 or 3. And there's not too much to talk about, really. I think overall the design of Ride or Die, excuse me, is quite bad. And I say it's bad for the sole reason that basically 20 challenges is unreasonable to actually be a real challenge, right? And what I mean by this is, past a certain point, it's either they're all on or they're all off, right? It doesn't feel gradual. All of them just feel like a clusterfuck mess of bullshit, quite honestly. And there's no real counterplay to a lot of it when there's 20 of them. So basically, it doesn't feel fun because it's not fun to just get 20 different effects constantly thrown at you non-stop with very little agency over the counterplay. And this wholly becomes irrelevant if you can just one burst the bosses, which I can't, obviously, as you can see in the video. I think I'm like 2 bursting most of them, 3 bursting some, but I'm not strong enough to do it. I also don't have a Genesis weapon, which losing the iframe is really shitty here, especially too, because I don't have any iframes anywhere else to get my burst off. So it is what it is, and I don't know. I'm not going to commentate throughout this whole run. I'm just going to kind of talk about some things going into this and just sort of what do I try and do. Okay, so obviously you want to abuse your door pots. The door pots you can use between every fight. You can't use them in a fight, but you can use them between every fight because there's no debuff when you use the door. So you want to use as many door pots as you need to conserve lives, because the more lives you have, the more score multiplier you get. And ultimately, I don't think it's worth doing S rank 20 challenges unless you can probably 2 burst bosses. I think 3 bursting is pushing it. I think you're better off trying to do like S1 or S5, S10, because you can get 500k points with a combination of S1 through 10. You don't need S20. S20 only exists solely to push for the 50 fragments, which again, I don't really think the 50 fragments are that big of a deal. If you get 500k points, you're getting like 40-something fragments, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, somewhere in there, depending on where your score lands. So it's really not like you're losing that many fragments, and that's kind of my point. Another thing that you really should do, and you'll see a lot of in this video, even though I sped this up by 200%, is a lot of waiting in between bosses, because you want all of your cooldowns to be up for each boss, right? It's the same idea as drinking a door pot. You absolutely do not want to not have like your origin, your burst. Like, you need this stuff. You want to do as much damage as fast as you possibly can in these bosses, especially if you're doing S20, because it's just miserable otherwise. This is why I say it's not a greatly designed event. I think if they toned it down, made the challenges more meaningful, maybe tuned the bosses up a bit more to compensate for the less amount of challenges, but make them actually like something you can play around rather than just, okay, well, you have 20 of them now, so it's like, lol. Right now I'm watching the PAP part of the fight. We're on CPAP. CPAP was my second boss, Dark Knight was my first. But I remember very vividly when I recorded this, like you just saw here, I got yeeted up into the sky. The lasers touched because of that, because I couldn't block the laser, and I lost a life. Is that really a challenge? I would say no. And the same thing happens between tests, like the clock test for CPAP, the slime test for slime. That you can see I die mid-test because I'm getting corner fucked by a bunch of bullshit. Like, there's no counterplay here. It's just obnoxious. It truly feels like nobody played this. Or if they did play it, they only played it and they killed the boss in one burst, so none of this shit mattered. I don't know. I could rant about Ride or Die forever. I think I've given you guys as many useful tips as I can. I don't remember if I said it, but if you do die, you should probably wait your death timer out for as long as you can, because it gives you your cooldowns back closer. The only reason I'm running it down here and respawning is because I'm so close to phasing the boss and my burst was almost up, so I was like, fuck it, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I get tilted, I'll be honest. This shit is just not fun, and I don't have fun doing it. But those are my tips. If you want to watch the rest of this, feel free. Like I said, I sped it up by 200%, so it shouldn't be too bad. But I do complete every boss in S20. Would I recommend it? I mean, if you have to ask, should you do S20? The answer is probably no, if we're being honest. That's my feelings on it. Go for 500k, not all S20.